Hi, this is Peter Woolfolk. First, thank you so very much for being a listener to the Public Relations Review podcast. I would really appreciate you leaving a review of the podcast. Let me know what you think. To make it easy, you can go directly to the podcast website, and that is publicrelationsreviewpodcast.com. There, you can go directly to the review page to leave your review. So let me know what you think of the podcast. And again, thank you so very, very much for being a listener.
Welcome. This is the Public Relations Review podcast, a program to discuss the many facets of public relations with seasoned professionals, educators, authors, and others. Now, here is your host, Peter Woolfolk.
Welcome to the Public Relations Review podcast and to our listeners all across America and around the world. Now, Apple has ranked this podcast among the top 1% of podcasts worldwide. And recently, FeedSpot listed this podcast as number 13 on its top 70 best public relations podcasts in the United States. So thank you to all of our guests and listeners for your continued support. And if you enjoy the podcast, please leave a review. Question for my audience. Have you paid close attention to influencer marketers these days? How many are simply people who say what you pay them to say and not much more? How much would your credibility factor multiply if your organization used actual customers speaking from real experience with your product or service? Well, that scenario is now here and it's doing very well. Influencer marketing is changing with Influencer Radar. They spot influential customers the moment they buy. It focuses on existing customers as the real game changers rather than the so-called big names. Imagine harnessing that hidden potential in an audience to transform them into advocates of their favorite brands. It's a topic that's not just timely, but could also increase the believability factor of your forward-thinking company. Now, my guest today is the founder of The Rave, the creator of Influential Radar. They engage influencers from within clients' customer bases and pivots them towards authenticity and genuine connections. So joining me today from Mexico City, Mexico, is Luke Yarnton. Luke, welcome to the podcast.
Peter, I'm so excited to be here. I was listening to one of your podcasts earlier today when you were speaking with Amber about merchandise for brands, and I think of all the podcasts I've been on lately, your voice is by far the most enchanting and leathery. It's sort of like I'm speaking on a late night radio kind of DJ type situation. So excited to be here. Excited to get into the deep conversations about influencer marketing with someone who's obviously well experienced in the space and knows what he's talking about.
Well, that's the thing that intrigued me when your office sent me an invitation to have you on here, because I'd never heard about this before, and it makes perfect sense. Using customers to speak on what they like. So basically, what caused you to create this? What did you see that you thought was missing that led to your creating Influencer Radar?
Yeah, look, there's a couple of different factors that have come that have fueled us to get us to the point that we're at now. I think one of them, one of the key ones, is that I built a referral and affiliate platform. So with a referral and affiliate platform, the metrics you care about is who's sharing their unique referral links or referral affiliate links to their friends, family, and followers, and how many clicks are they getting. Mm-hmm. And consistently, time and time again, what would get the merchants or the businesses that use our referral and affiliate technology excited was seeing that a micro-influencer or a nano-influencer was sharing their product organically. They somehow happened upon a referral link by themselves and they were sharing it with their audience. And they would go wild. That's so exciting for them. Mm-hmm. So then I took a step back and said, what are some ways that we could streamline getting to this endpoint of having someone who cares about your brand, who's also a micro-influencer or a nano-influencer, sharing about it. And I come from a technology background, so I'm sort of well-versed in the judo that is technology. And I said, look, based on what I know from this referral and affiliate platform, we're consuming a bunch of information when this is happening. So every single time a customer makes a transaction at one of the businesses we work with, we get that customer profile. So we get their email address, we get all these other details. And in a previous world, I did a lot of work in e-commerce. So I know from an e-commerce perspective what it's like to partner with an influencer or a creator. And I know what these influencer databases look like, and the details that exist in those databases. So by that logic, I said, it should be pretty easy. If I have the information that exists on one side, which is here's everything you need to know about creators and influencers, and here's some information that I own that's on my side, which is email address, name, delivery details, blah, 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 it should be pretty easy just to match one against the other. And I should automatically be able to find, based on all of these influencer databases around the world, who's actually an influencer who's buying from me.
Mm-hmm. So what were, I guess the best question is, once you have that information about this particular influencer, how do you get them to become an influencer for the organization that wants that information or wants them to be an influencer?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Peter. And look, the right approach for that varies depending on different businesses. And the seat that I'm sitting in here now, I get to see some businesses doing some pretty cool stuff in terms of how they're planning to activate the influencers who live within their customer base. So maybe let me speak just 3 or 4 different versions of that. The most basic version that we're seeing that is popular and really easy to set up is we integrate our technology into these stores, right? And the moment that an influencer makes a purchase, we create a notification that goes to their influencer manager or someone in their marketing team that says, hey, this person just made a purchase from you. Maybe you want to reach out to them and see if they're interested in being a partner with you. And they can go through the list. Every day there's maybe 10 new influencers that made a purchase. And just to give you an idea on volume, we see on average for every 10,000 customers that make a purchase, 200 of them have more than 2,500 followers on either Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or Twitter X. So the easiest way is we just send them a notification saying, maybe you want to reach out to this person, and then they can, via Instagram DM or something, can reach out to them and say, hey, so you made a purchase, any chance you'd be interested in collaborating in the future? That's the low lift, easy way to integrate. Let's go to level 2. Level 2 is such that we set up some email automations. So customer makes a purchase. If they're identified as an influencer, we create an email flow off the back of that happens automatically. And that email flow says, and the email that they receive varies depending on the follow account that they have. And the most successful email we have gets delivered, we organize it to be delivered about 48 hours after the purchase. And it says, hey, we see you purchased. We love your content. And to acknowledge that you made a purchase from us, we'd love to refund your order completely if you're happy just to feature our product that you just purchased in your Instagram story or in some way over the next week or 2. And for most people who've purchased with their own money, you're not putting too much pressure on them to brand it or post it in a certain type of way, shape, or form. It's purely just, if you can just feature us in any way you want, happy to refund that purchase completely free of charge.
Wait a minute, I just want to make sure I understand for you. If they agree to be an influencer for you, the companies will then give them their money back in exchange for doing that.
Exactly. So this is this weird. We've stumbled by accident across this weird phenomenon, which is refunds of purchase tend to be held in a different regard to cash for posting. So, for example, if you were to reach out to an influencer and say, I'm going to give you $100 for an Instagram post, most of them will tell you, no, go away, not interested. That's well below my market rate. But if they've spent $100 on a product and you offer to refund the full price of that product, so it's $100, in exchange for them featuring you in a post, the conversion rate is 1,000 times higher than the previous situation where you're saying, I want to give you $100 to post about me. For some reason, and look, I'm sure some consumer psychologist is going to be able to tell me the exact reason why that occurs. I'm not sure about myself. But it seems to change the logic if it's a refund versus a net payment. So offering that refund, saying, hey, so you purchased, here's a refund. All you need to do is just feature it in some way over the next 2 weeks. Would love to go through that process with you.
Well, it makes a lot of sense to me. It does, simply because I purchased without knowing anything about being an influencer. I purchased it because I needed it, or I wanted it, or I like it.
Exactly.
So now I have no problem speaking up to say that I like it and enjoy it. And the bonus, of course, is that I'm going to get paid. You're going to give me my money back for saying that I like something that I was going to pay for anyway.
Exactly. And the key thing is, once you've, it's the start of a partnership, start of a relationship. So while getting one simple post to an Instagram account now might seem insignificant, the idea is once you've got them to do something once, the likelihood of you being able to get them to post multiple times, or to actually build a relationship and for them to be invested and an advocate of your brand, significantly increases. The third layer, the third version, the third option that I was talking about, and this is my favorite at the moment, I think this is really cool, is that we work with a lot of brands who just do these, we call them surprise and delight campaigns, where they'll go through on a quarterly basis, look at everyone who's purchased from them in the last quarter, find all of the influencers in there, plus all the influencers who purchased from them previously, and they'll just send something what to the average person might seem small and insignificant, but from a brand that they already know and care about, a handwritten note with something for free. And the unfair advantage and the key benefit here is these brands know the size, they know the delivery address, they know the details, the order details of these influencers and creators, because they've gone through and made a purchase in the past. So it might cost a couple of $1,000s, but you've just sent out a bunch of really exciting activation content to these creators, and I think that's a really interesting and innovative way to sort of make the most out of these creator partners that exist within your database.
Now, let me ask you: is there any way that once the organization brings this person on as an influencer, is there any way to measure their productivity? In other words, did they post something nice about whatever it was, the product that they bought, and can then the merchant track the results of that posting?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Marketing is a puzzle. You can either give into the confusion or learn to love the solve. On the Axiom's Real Talk About Marketing podcast, guests like Aaron Schaefer of GM share how to manage challenges.
Make sure that you're not fixed in terms of what you're thinking about. The team's going to change, and the way teams operate are going to change. COVID was a great example of that. The industry is going to change. Are cookies going away or not? That was another great example of that. And so how do you continue to evolve as the space evolves?
Guests from HP, The Trade Desk, and Databricks share thoughts on today's marketing landscape. Find Real Talk About Marketing on YouTube, Axiom.com, or wherever you hear podcasts.
So I've got a couple of answers to that question. For me, obviously I'm from the world of referral and affiliate marketing. And when it comes to referral and affiliate marketing, we're everything is fully attributable and fully visual. So I believe that trying to encourage your creators to post a specific link that's unique to them, that allows you to track exactly how many clicks they're getting and what the engagement of those customers looks like when you get to the website, is the key, is probably the best practice and the healthiest way to go about that process. In saying that, I think it's also true that the way we consider these engagements and relationships with creators and influencers is changing. And by this, I mean, I think we're shifting towards this decentralized marketing world. And by that, I mean, it used to be that the brand makes all of the decisions around what the brand looks like and what people say about the brand and the font and everything. We're starting to see that decentralized, where the brand is actually being represented by thousands of different creators and influencers who all speak about the brand in their own way, shape, or form. So putting pressure on these creators and influencers for a style of language or a type of performance that you're looking for, I'm not sure if that's going to be the winning formula going forward. And the decentralized approach should be, we're going to reward you if you can make transactions, but you have freedom to achieve those transactions in any way, shape, or form you see fit. We'll just make the best damn product we possibly can and let you, the creator, do what you do best, which is finding an engaged audience and telling them about our product in a way that makes sense to you and makes sense to them.
Well, I'm certainly on board with that, because when information comes from somebody that you know and trust and have seen around for a long time, the believability factor is so much higher, as compared to an advertisement on TV or online or from somebody you don't know. So that believability factor, I've been knowing you for long. If it's good for you, it's good enough for me, sort of thing, I think holds up a lot better, worth a lot more than the fact that you paid somebody, I don't know, a couple $100 to say that it's good.
Exactly. And look, I think you're speaking to a very interesting trend that's happening at the moment, where there's some good charts up there on the internet that I suppose the folks listening to this can have a look at afterwards. And it shows the trust in different forms of media over time. And you'll see that the trust in traditional advertising is falling. The trust in traditional media is falling dramatically. Even the trust in like traditional influencer marketing, which is you partnering with an influencer with 1 million or 2 million followers, the trust in them is falling significantly. Where the trust remains is with word of mouth from friends and family and coworkers. That's still super high. And with there's a sort of a converse relationship when it does come to Instagram influencers or TikTok influencers or YouTubers, where as the follower count increases, the level of trust in them decreases. So you want to occupy that as many as you can towards the bottom of the smaller the better. You want to build an army of these sort of smaller, high trust influencers and ambassadors that are going to carry your brand to the next level.
Well, I mean, I can certainly understand that, because if people can see that your how would I put it, your remarks about this have been influenced about how much you got paid, not how much you value it or how much you use it or how much it benefits you, as compared to, well, I've been using it for years. The fact that they gave me a couple of dollars or refunded it, I mean, didn't make that much difference to me, because I was going to buy it anyway. I mean, I can certainly understand the difference, and it does make sense to me, and I can understand the value to the employer or the person wanting it. It stands out, and the believability factor is far much higher. So I can certainly understand why those ratios are what they are, because of how it's done.
Yeah, and look, I think further to that point, consumers are wising up to this idea of authenticity, and they can tell when someone's being inauthentic when they're talking about a brand that they don't actually know and love. Which I think this is why it is so critical that if you can find a creator who actually spent their own hard-earned cash to buy your product or to experience your service or to go to your event, if they spent their money and they're going to be talking about it, they were genuinely excited to make that purchase.
Absolutely.
And so being able to capture those people when the time is right, that's one of the best sort of marketing or PR assets you can have in 2025.
Well, the other thing too is this sort of intersects or interlocks with storytelling, because when people are looking for storytelling, it's the authenticity. I mean, it's been shown that the more authentic and honest and that you are about it, the more believable you are, and the more traction you get. Yeah. So, I mean, from what I'm hearing now, these two things actually go together.
100%. And look, I think to that point as well, when it comes to storytelling, if I'm a creator with 3,000 or 4,000 followers and they're engaged and they love my content, I don't want to risk sort of like breaking their trust or telling them a story that they're not interested in about a product that I don't even love. I as a small sort of like that 3,000, 4,000 follower account influencer, I want to be telling them genuine things that I love, that I know they're going to care about, that I trust completely, because that relationship I have with them is so important. and I'm not going to risk that on some cheap paid endorsement from some brand I've never heard of.
Well, and it also obviously depends on who you bring on board, because there are some people that care more about how much money they make, and so just prostitute themselves to say, if that's what you want me to say, then that's what I'll say. That's a huge difference from somebody saying, hey, look, I said it because I believe in it, I've been using it for years, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't believe in it. Those are two different things. And the believability factor and whoever brought you on board adds to their credibility because you brought on somebody that also believes it.
Yeah, and look, I think that's a short-sighted approach, where if you're just going to sell out to whoever wants
Right.
to pay you the most money, people are going to start realizing that it's not genuine and it's not real. And look, the same applies to these brands who are starting to get AI influencers, like fake avatars that are talking about the brand pretending to be an influencer. Again, short-sighted approach. It's not real. It's not genuine. People are going to see through that.
Well, and these are the things that I think, as you pointed out earlier, consumers are catching on to this now. AI is going to get to the point that if it's misused, it's going to damage your product or your service, because people can see through some of these things. Maybe you might get them on the beginning because they don't know any better, but once they find out that you've tried to pull the wool over their eyes, you're going to lose a lot, not only them as a customer, but they're going to tell their friends and neighbors about it too, and so the wheels really begin to come off after that.
Look, I think that's one of the most insulting things you can do as a brand, is to try and pull the wool over your customers' eyes and give them a fake endorsement or like a fake story about a product. If you're a good brand that makes a good product or a good service or a good experience, you should have no trouble finding people to tell that story to the world. That's the way the world works now, is that these snippets exist on social media. You should have no trouble. And what we're doing is just, for these good brands that make good products and tell good stories, we help them find the people that are happy to tell that story. Plus, they've got a big old microphone, so they can tell a lot of people because they already have this built-in reach that exists when they made that purchase.
Now, how wide has this, your influencer radar gone now? Is it, where is it? Is it in the U.S.? Is it in Mexico? Is it in Europe? Just how far has it gone thus far?
Yeah, so we're still pretty early on the journey. We're only working with just over 100 brands so far.
Okay.
The biggest brand we're working with is a big secondary ticketing marketplace called Event Ticket Center. I think they're one of the top 5 ticketing platforms in the US. We're working with a bunch of interesting e-commerce stores, the likes of some of them you might have heard of in the Shopify space, sort of around that enterprise scale level. One of them's Form, one of them's a nice yoga company called Stack. There's a bunch of them that exist in that space. But we're sort of rapidly ramping up, and our bread and butter is in e-commerce, but we're looking to grow beyond that. So anyone that has a customer list of 10,000 customers or more can usually see pretty good value in what we're doing here.
So how does the company or organization that employs you, how do they go about paying for this? Do you charge, how do you decide how much an influencer should get for, coming on and being one of part of your influencer radar?
Yeah, look, so our influencer radar works sort of independent of these dollar amounts at exchange, right? So we work with brands, and the price we charge brands depends on the volume of the emails that we're analyzing on their behalf. So it tends to be like a set monthly fee for us to be consistently analyzing every email that comes through the platform and telling them who's an influencer and who's not. When it comes to the brand finding the right price to pay that influencer for that content, we've got some strong suggestions, but there's a bunch of different factors that come into play around, like what is the value of the product? Can they refund the entire value of the product or not? Can they... Is it something that has a lot of social currency, or is it something that doesn't have a lot of social currency? If it's not something naturally interesting for people to talk about, you have to turn the price up a little bit to make them more likely to want to post about it. And there's a few different ways that you can sort of put that together. And then obviously to that previous point around the way we price, we can also do massive retrospective looks. So just this week we've onboarded a business that has just over 1 million customers in the email database. So we've gone through that entire customer list and found a cohort of thousands of creators that have purchased over the last 4 or 5 years, that they now have a really engaged email list of all the creators that ever purchased from them, where you're exclusively getting creator offers.
Okay. Well, Luke, let me say this. You have been great in letting us know about Influencer Radar. If someone wants to get more information about it, how would they reach you?
Yeah, look, you can visit us at therave.co. That's our website, therave, THERAVE.co. Feel free to email me directly, luke@therave.co, or you can find me on LinkedIn. I imagine my LinkedIn profile is going to be attached to the show notes of this podcast.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me say this. I think, our listeners are really going to appreciate this, because this is, when I got the information about what you did, I said, wow, this is spectacular. And this is the kind of thing that I like to bring to my audience, because they like to hear this kind of stuff. It's something new, and more important, it's something they can possibly use. That's the most important part about this thing. So I want to thank you again for reaching out and for coming on and being a guest on the Public Relations Review podcast.
Look, Peter, I'm so happy to be here. And look, if anyone's even slightly interested in hearing more, feel free to reach out to me directly. Look, the technology is still super new, and we're still working out what the right direction is to take it, what features we need to add. So if anyone feels strongly or has any ideas, don't be a stranger. Jump into my inbox and let's sit down and have a conversation, not dissimilar to the conversation I've had with Peter right here.
Well, let me say again, thank you to Luke Yarnton. He is the founder of the Influencer Radar. And if you've enjoyed it, we certainly suggest that you reach out to him and get more information as to how it can benefit you. And of course, if you, the listener, you've enjoyed the podcast, we'd certainly like to get a review from you. And you can do that by going right to our website. But also, let me say, please share this information with you and your colleagues, and join us for the next edition of the Public Relations Review podcast.
This podcast is produced by Communication Strategies, an award-winning public relations and public affairs firm headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, this is Peter Woolfolk. First, let me say thank you so much for being a listener. Now, I want to alert you to our shiny new podcast website located at podpage.com. However, you can go directly to the podcast site located at publicrelationsreviewpodcast.com. There, you can contact me through email. You can leave a voice message. You can leave a review. You can read an episode blog and frequently learn about the podcast guests. You might also want to suggest podcast topic ideas or even suggest a guest. You can also let me know if you would like to receive our podcast listener logo that you can post on your social media. So I look forward to hearing from you about our new podcast website. Thank you so much for listening to the Public Relations Review podcast, and have a great day.